Welcome to Caseback Watches. My name is Tim, and in this episode I'm planning a journey back to vintage Omega. In fact, years ago I started my career as a watch collector with vintage Omegas from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and it was a great time. I sold them all because of this fascinating mixture of stupidity and greed. And now all of those watches are away, but I can remember my satisfaction when I bought a new Genève or Seamaster or Constellation. And so in this video I'd like to point out the benefits, the pros of old Omegas from that era, and I will present you my 4 models of choice, models which I think are worth it, absolutely worth it. First, Omega is a respected watch brand. I think most people know Omega and most people value their reputation. Second, timeless designs. If you wear an Omega from the 60s, then you have sort of a role model on the wrist. You may ask, oh, this looks like such and such watch, but the chances are high that such and such watch has borrowed everything from that old Omega. These watches in good condition don't look outdated. You can put them on the wrist and it will look fresh and clear and uncluttered and pure and yeah, great. Pro number 3 is the price. It's not a bargain, it's not cheap, but it's not super luxurious, okay? So if you say you have 2.5 grand as a budget for that watch, you have quite something to choose from. But if you are on a stiffer budget, let's say you're 800, then there is something for you too. I mean, then you have to do your homework, you have to work harder, you have to hunt watches really down, and you have to make some compromises, but the watch world of Omega is for everybody. Reason number 4, insane quality, insane movement quality, especially if you think about those 500 series of movements. They're just nice, they're extremely accurate, they are reliable. And the older movements as well, if you have a manual wind Omega movement from the 50s, they are rock solid. A watchmaker told me once about those movements, you cannot destroy them. With normal use you cannot destroy them. They're machines, like a Soviet tractor. It's impossible to destroy that thing, and this is absolutely great. And also if you see the dials, those nice sunburst dials with applied indices and everything is just perfect, and sometimes perfectly conserved because the substance is there. So if you have a watch from the 60s which was never harmed by moisture, for example, then sometimes the thing looks fresh like NOS, new old stock. And even if you compare those old Omegas with modern watches, even then you can see quality in all those details. Reason number 5, rarity. Because those watches, let's say from the 60s, are 60 years old now and they are out of production since decades. And so it's really normal that you cannot find them in every shop. But on the other hand, they were produced back then in large quantities. And so the chance that you can pick up a piece for yourself is very high. So they are rare, but not super rare. And so again, it's an area of watches for everybody. Okay, those were my 5 reasons, and now let me give you an overview over 4 models. Here you see an Omega without further explanation on the dial, just Omega, but often called Jumbo. These watches were produced between the late 40s and 50s, at least from this period you see them from time to time. They were manual wound or with bumper movements, and they were relatively big in diameter, 35, 36 or even 37 millimeters, so perfectly wearable nowadays. The manual wound movements are rock solid, and you still find watchmakers that are able and willing to service them. Crowns and crystals are often replaced, which is not a drama if you ask me. When you're lucky, then you see a tiny Omega sign in the middle of the crystal, which means that it is original, or at least original Omega. Traps are heavily corroded dials, sold as patina, because this is just rust. And rust will carry out its work, and so I personally would stay away from that. Another trap is a bumper movement with a severe defect, because it is very hard for watchmakers to get parts. A service at Omega will set you back around 1,000 euros or around 1,100 US dollars minimum. But you do find these watches for under 1,000 in good or acceptable condition on Chrono24, and sometimes from private seller even cheaper on eBay. But please take all prices in this video with a grain of salt, especially when you buy from a professional dealer. They are very different when it comes to after-sales services. And this leads me to a shout out to Vintage Portfolio here. They are not a sponsor, this video is free content, but the owner Maximilian was so friendly to provide me with images for this video. He is a dealer for vintage watches for 8 years now and has an awesome documentation. So, Vintage Portfolio from Austria. This old Seamaster has nothing to do with the modern bondage watches. They were very elegant, understated timepieces with long hands and very refined cases. You have an endless list of references with huge differences. Case diameters are mostly 34 or 35 millimeters and every material between steel and solid gold. The automatic Seamasters are mostly powered by the 500 series of Omega movements, which are seen as amongst the best movements on the planet. These calibers are gold-plated and look like pieces of art. And good news is that many independent watchmakers do a form of organized crime to deal parts. The entire watch doesn't grab your attention in a loud way. As said, they are subtle and you may need your time to value them, but I don't know a single Seamaster owner who is not super happy with this watch after a while. Therefore, they are more expensive and rare because most people keep them. If you find a Seamaster from the 60s under 1000 euros on Chrono24, you're lucky. But you can hunt them on eBay from private sellers and then you might grab one for around 600 euros. But then with full risk, of course. By the way, note that the caseback of a Seamaster wears a zebra. One of my favorite vintage watches. It comes also in form of many references, but my favorite is this here. Very classic, round and simple case, sunburst dial uncluttered with date. It's like an archetype for a day-to-day watch. Genèves come mostly with 34 or 35 millimeter case diameter, plexi of course, and in case of automatics with the 500 series of movements and the 1000 series. The first one, produced during the 60s, is preferable, but when you find a Genève with a 1000 series movement from the 70s, you can expect a better price. The watch looks more modern as the Seamaster. The design always reminded me of the Ligne Claire in comic books. This clean but not boring style looks modest and superior at the same time. It's crazy. And it ages well, still looks fresh. Prices, hard to tell, they vary because models can be very different, for example with a gold case, date or no date, or even if the watch is in a certain region. So buying a proper Genève demands time and research, but it is worth it. One of my first videos here was how to buy an Omega Genève, by the way. There you find more details. The constellation of stars as the reference for time measured by an observatory. What a watch! Again, many references, but in my humble opinion, it's a bit quirky, yes, but in my humble opinion, the most timeless are those with a C-shaped case. Very classic in design, with a famous 500 series of movements, often in excellent shape and with many attractive details. You have this nice star on the dial and of course the observation tower in 18 karat gold on the caseback. Case diameters are 34 and 35, but they wear bigger because of the case form. Very attractive are also the constellations from the 50s and early 60s with the pie pan dial. They look older, they're not timeless, but they have the charm of a big vintage car, especially when they come in 18 karat gold. Prices are again a jungle because of all those different models and case materials. With full risk, you may buy a Constellation in steel on eBay from a private seller for around 600 euros. On Chrono, easily double that amount. And if you want more information about this model, then check out my video how to buy an Omega Constellation, but be warned, also one of my oldest videos here. And these were my 4 models of choice. This is the hunting list. Okay, welcome back, and now I'm really curious what we can do next year. Will it be possible next year to buy a nice vintage Omega for my collection or for your collection, or yeah, who knows. And I'm very curious about your favorite watch of those 4 watches. Or maybe I haven't mentioned a model you like pretty much, then let us know in the comments please. And now allow me to give you a little update regarding my leatherwork. I crafted a a smartphone case because I was in need of a new case and the pieces on Amazon were rubbish, to be honest. And so I constructed from a horse hide my own case, and I wanted to make this available for the shop. And I had two problems to solve. First was speed. You don't want to manipulate and work on it until you can use your phone. That's impossible. You have to pull it out like that, right? This is very important. And the solution was this construction with this belt here. It's not my invention, by the way. And a special treatment of the inside, which flattens the fibers. And now it's super quick. As you can see, it's super handy to use. And the second problem was the push button. You don't want a push button to scratch your phone. And now the inside is protected here with leather from that strap. Goes round like this. And a viewer on Instagram asked me if it's possible to produce various sizes for all those different phones. Answer is yes. And if you don't find your phone there, then just write a message. Maybe I can make a special one for you then. Okay, and now we're at the end of this video. Next Friday I'll have a break, okay? I think we all need a break from time to time, and Christmas Eve is a good starting point, I think. And so, if you want to have your sneak previews and your updates as always, then please follow me on Instagram. It's caseback_Tim. And now let me thank you very much for your attention, and until next time.